Just close it and we'll figure the rest of it out as we go.
Yeah, you like one thing and the algorithm.
Okay. Really tight turn, sorry.
Yeah, they need to work on the turning.
I know, right?
So, Tia asked me, wanted us to come back.
You made it.
We're pretty good on that.
Okay. I have.
That Aileen's already got
Hey,
that.
Chris, how you doing?
This is a lot going on right here on this agenda.
There's gonna be a lot going on for the next couple.
That's exciting.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to call the Economic Development Committee meeting to order. Today is June 3rd. We're gonna have a couple presentations and I will hand it over to the Director Smith.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have Mayor Panto from the City of Easton back with us today. Just a few adjustments to the original presentation on the Easton LRTA that he's going to go through. Mayor?
I'm going to let Marek do the actual presentation. The only thing is, the last time we were here, you wanted us to go back to City Council, get City Council approval first. So we now have the school district approval and the City Council approval, so we're back here to you. But there is a little bit of a change at our City Council meeting. One of our council members brought up the addition of a couple pieces of property, and they make really good sense. So we just happen to overlook them. So I'll let Marek go ahead and do a summary of the presentation we gave last time, because I don't think Tara was here.
Thanks. Thanks for pointing that out. Really enjoyed that. I bet. I feel it.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Tominick. I'm the Economic Development Coordinator there at the City of Easton. I'll try to make this brief for you guys. Really, the only two major differences is an addition of 2 new properties and a subtraction of ones that were already on the LRTA list. So as we already know, the LRTA program, 10-year sliding scale, introduction of 10% per year, tax abatement on property taxes increasing, resulting from substantial rehab and redevelopment. Program background established in 2012 in the Resolution 66-2012. This is the second time the city has designated the LRTA program. The prior program was established in the 1970s. The Easton Area School Board and Northampton County Council passed a similar ordinance allowing the reestablishment of the program in Easton. The program was reauthorized in 2018 and allowed it to continue through 2027. Currently, 71 properties in the program. Hopefully after this, there'll be 82. The city is actually seeking to add, it should be 11 additional properties, with the Easton Area School District approved of the additions on April 20th, with the exception of 235 Northampton and the Line Street property, which is in the Wilson Area School District. So here are some of the ones that were from before. We have 58 Center Square, which is a prime location in our city's downtown. It has been, vacant for a while. Would you guys like me to go through the ones you guys have already seen, or just the additions?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Sorry, sir. Is this better?
Yeah.
Just lean in.
Sorry about that.
It's the mic.
All right. So would you guys like me to go through the properties that we have already heard, or would you like more just the new ones? Because I can run through them again if you guys like me to. Yep. Yep. All right. All right, sounds good. So quickly, we have 58 Center Square, located in the heart of our central business district. This building is in need of complete restoration. However, it has been vacant for approximately 15 years. The floors are missing. The building is ideal for retail commercial use in our city's downtown. The additional investment will not only increase the assessed value and property tax received, but market rate units will attract young professionals and disposable income. 697 Prospect Avenue, which is located in our West Ward, has recently been raised, and the property was acquired by the city's redevelopment authority, and a new house will be built with the city's affordable housing program. The new house will be ADA compliant and sold to physically handicapped people and family with handicapped individual that meets the income levels to participate in the program. There is also 201 Larry Holmes Drive, which was built in the post-urban renewal period in the 1970s. This office building does not utilize this parcel to its fullest, nor does it take advantage of their beautiful river waterfront. This parcel is meant to be mixed use with commercial first floor and market rate apartments, as many as 6 or 7 upper floors. It is right within our downtown and reach of our waterfront. It could definitely be better utilized, and the current assessed value is $784,800 with a potential market value of $7 million.
Excuse me, can I just interrupt? Sure. While you're on that property, you just mentioned something about commercial first floor. Isn't that in the floodplain where that wouldn't be possible?
So currently, I think in the downtown district, of which it falls in, does have first floor level commercial that's required for the downtown district. As far as the floodplain, I will have to check back with planning codes.
I can recall that area being underwater in the last
They
few
would,
years.
a new developer who would want to do that would have to be required to do the same thing as elevated above the floodplain. If you notice, the Larry Holmes buildings, both the 2-story and the 5-story, have never had water in them. No, they're neither 2004, 5, or 6, because it's built above the floodplain. He had to bring in a lot of soil in to raise it up, and he had to go deeper with his steel beams, but his pilings. But it is, you're right, we would have to follow the floodplain rules. Any developer would have to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Next up, we have 717 Berwick Street. The site was the second Food Lane store and most recently Harmony Press. Harmony Press is actually moving on to a new site. It's an excellent location with off-street parking and easy access to I-78. The current assessed value is just under $200,000 with a potential market value of $2.25 million. Another one from before is 16 South 6th Street, which is in our west ward, around the edge there. The vacant building was once a stable, and most recently the original location of Weyerbacher Brewery. This current assessed value is about $43,000, but we expect assessments that could be 4 to 5 times that amount. It is located directly behind Two Rivers Brewing, and it is a popular area for residential units and has seen a renaissance over the last few years in the area, and we think this probably will definitely see that continue. Next on, we have 37 West Street. It's a former industrial valve building we are anxiously waiting an adaptive reuse, most probably in the form of market rate residential complex. It is directly behind the former A&D tile store and the former West radio station building. It is within easy walking distance of City's Pine Street parking garage, and is currently assessed at $58,000. With a transformation to new modern apartments, it could increase the value to about $1 million. Next up, we have 121 Northampton Street. This was recently sold and was the location of the Easton Cafe, former bar and food establishment, and apartments. The current assessment is about $164,000, but with incentives, it could be a multi-million-dollar development with new development coming in that area, especially with the Commodore that was announced and further things on the Governor Wolf building. Next up again, we have 601 Reynolds Street. This building was the site of the former Fleas Club and is located on the south side. It's been vacant for many years, and the adaptive reuse of the property will add to a neighborhood that now houses the beautiful Ada Cheston Elementary School, Easton Yards, and the Middle at Easton Projects. Current assessment is at $127,000. Fully renovated with the potential of additional floors, this property could easily reach the value of $1.2 million. This being the area next to those developments, I think could be a great addition to this program. Then we have 250 Line Street, which is where the Easton Food Market is and the Family Dollar in the city's south side. This commercial strip mall and shopping center is dilapidated and in need of redevelopment. Furthermore, the 12-acre site is grossly underutilized. Current assessment value is about $730,000, fully redeveloped. Current potential of the commercial buildings and the property, especially with its location next to 78, it can be 10 to 20 times that market value. Now we have some of the additions to this list that you haven't seen before. Next up is 235 Northampton Street. The building is completely vacant. The building has no floors and is in need of renovation. It has been in this condition for approximately 2 years and is one of the last remaining empty storefronts on the 200 block of Northampton Street. This property was also identified by the Main Street Economic Vitality Committee as the vacant storefront activation program. Yeah, Joe still has a sign there, but they are currently not functioning. And second of the additions is 157-163 Northampton Street, the former location of the Phenom Restaurant. This property is one of the last remaining storefronts on the 100 block of Northampton Street. This property has also been targeted by the Main Street's Economic Vitality Committee for the vacant storefront activation program and is considered one of the most marketable properties in the downtown. Seeing this get filled would really help get that Northampton Street corridor in the direction that we're heading. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I really didn't have much of a problem with any of these, except for, I recall at our last meeting, I think it was the 121 Northampton Street property. Would you mind paging back to that one recently? So the current assessment is $164,300, and I believe it had been recently sold. What was the sale price?
I do not have that sale price off the top of my head, I'm sorry, but
Somewhere north or south of 2 million.
Yeah, I think we need to notify the assessment office, because even with the common level ratio, property may be under-assessed, the way I see it. And, but, you know, for the most part, I think these are great, but I just, that's the one that I've just had a sticking point with. And just, I'm also wondering, does the bowling alley still work in the Fleas Club? Is that, it does?
I don't know, we should go check it out, I guess.
You said that there was one project that was going to be deleted. Which one was that?
So as far as the projects being deleted, you mean removed from the presentation? So the ones that were removed from this presentation were already previously on the alert list. There's a bit of oversight, so I believe it was the Bushkill Street properties. So it would be 1101 through 1113 in Bushkill Drive, which are the Easton Iron and Metal properties. And I believe 27 South 3rd Street, which is the Pine Street Garage, is already on the alert list.
And those were removed at the request of the city council member?
So it was removed from this list over oversight, as they were already on the alerted list. They're not, this list is, exactly, they're not additions.
So they are on the list?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. I just wanted to clarify that point.
Just for clarification, they have been already approved? I'm getting a little more confused as you go. So these
Yes.
projects already have been approved?
So the ones taken off of the list that was presented last time, those are currently active LERTA properties that have been approved previously.
Yeah, I have a question.
Mr. McGee?
On slide 10, I'm assuming there's a decent-sized parking lot for this building. Okay, that's my question.
Yep.
I'd say about 20 to 22 cars.
Okay, because lots of potential here, so, all right.
We had a developer we thought was interested in it. Actually, I will tell you, he was going to move the your county public assistance office from Larry Holmes Drive to here, because it had the off-street parking that they don't have down there. They have some parking, but not for all the employees. But that fell through. Both projects ended up falling through.
Thank you.
Any other questions from committee or anybody on council? Thank you for the presentation, Mark.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, Mr. Locke.
And a gift, right?
All right. Thank you. Our request to council will be, you will be getting a, oops, it's okay. Copy of the request for ordinance to be put on the next council meeting agenda. So stay tuned for that. I want to flip the agenda a little bit if I can, because we're saving our housing presentation till last because they're remoting in. We gave them a little bit of an approximate time because they're in San Diego. So if I can, we'll move up. I'll invite Mr. Frank Brooks up, who's going to talk a little bit about our two CDBG items on the agenda.
Thank you. Could I just ask the solicitor one question? Do we move, we don't have an ordinance for the LRTA, but we want to bring it forward next time. Do we move it out of committee without an actual physical ordinance, or? No, the ordinance will need to be introduced. Okay. All right, so that does not officially need to come out of committee. Thank you.
It'll be introduced next meeting, right? Tonight or the third Thursday? That's what I thought. Just clarifying.
Good evening, council members. I have two resolutions on the agenda right now. I have a resolution before you to add funding of $42,763.45 in unobligated, unspent funds from the CDBG program years 2014 and 2016. We're looking to close out those 2 years, and we found we have unobligated funds that HUD unexpectedly transferred into our accounts. So we are seeking your approval to use these funds towards completing 3 homes, removing lead paint hazards where very young children reside that have tested with elevated lead blood levels. We've got the homes that are located in Easton and the Slate Belt. So we're asking your approval to move this money so that we can remove these lead hazards from these homes.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Yeah. Yeah. That's, so the next resolution I have is to approve the fair housing document that we did. As part of accepting HUD funding, there are requirements that our CDBG program must report on. One of the responsibilities is how we inform our residents of their rights under the Fair Housing Act of 1968 when seeking housing. So our CDBG program is required to undertake this process every 5 years so we can report to HUD about our compliance activities. So the CDBG program last ran this process back in 2014. So the 5 years have passed, and in 2019 we started the process up again. This is a large undertaking for any one entity. So our DCED office pulled together a plan to include Bethlehem, Easton, Allentown with us, and we call it the BEAN program, using all our initials. By partnering up, it not only managed the cost for us, but the plan to HUD can be a regional approach towards our fair housing compliance. The process we ran, including holding public community meetings with stakeholders. We spent July of 2014 gathering information from the many meetings held throughout the region. COVID put the brakes on finishing the plan as HUD turned its attention towards the needs of the pandemic. Our program, along with our partners, are now completing this process. Northampton County has used North Penn Legal Services as our fair housing partner. North Penn is a nonprofit legal firm specializing in fair housing law requirements. They provide to our community fair housing training. They also represent our residents when a violation of fair housing law is suspected. Our CDBG program meets quarterly with our counterparts in Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, and Lehigh County, and we coordinate our fair housing activities using North Penn together. One of the ways we reach out to the community was to develop a tenant and landlord fair housing rights book, which you have right in front of you right now. This has become our most popular and most requested item. We've estimated that we've distributed over 50,000 of these booklets throughout since from 2014 currently. Because of the COVID restriction this past year, all our fair housing training and sessions, they were held virtually. The fair housing trainings are provided free of charge, and they are available to Lehigh Valley real estate agents and firms. We hold yearly training sessions for attorneys, landlords about the fair housing law as well. So the proposed fair housing plan will be like our previous plan. We inform our residents about their fair housing rights. We provide trainings to the real estate, legal, and landlord communities about how to be in compliance with the Fair Housing Act of 1968. Any questions?
Quick question. In the resolution, it says the draft was on public display from Wednesday to 12th, May 12th, 2021 to Friday, June 11th, 2021. So it's still on public display?
Yeah, we're going to have it right on through public display until sometime, because I want to make sure all our partners all run their public processes, and we want to submit it all together. So we're going to keep it open for a little longer length of time so we can gather more comments, and we all want to submit them all together and give the public more chance to look at it. It's a 286-page document, so there's a lot of heft to it, and lots of maps, but it's a very good program, and the county's been running this for an awful long time.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, Ms. Renzi.
I just wanted to ask how the houses in the first resolution were chosen. I mean, how did you come?
So what happens with that is the children, the very young children, test positive through a blood test, and the hospitals and the state inform us, and then we have to roll real quickly on that.
So will there be other homes that need to be remediated? And
Well-
where will that funding come from?
Right now, we have completed 39 homes. We've targeted 80 with our HUD grant for it. We've got 12 homes currently under contract, and we're moving lead. We, of course, lost a whole year with COVID because we couldn't go into any homes. But we're going to apply for more funding. We've got about another $500,000 to go on one. There's another NOFA coming up for another $5 million, and we also dedicated state money and some of our CDBG for that.
So there's 80 homes right now.
That's our benchmark. Yeah, we're looking to do 80 homes. We're about 39 because of COVID, and we will hit that mark before the end of the year.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
Motion to move both resolutions.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Do we have the consultants? Okay, good. And is the presentation coming up? Yeah, no problem.
things off here. Just want to make sure. There we are. Their consultant should be coming in. I'll leave it at that. I have stuff on. Should be okay.
That's why we need Zoom. Just saying. Oh, sorry. Well, the consultants
She's in,
for
the
the
lady-
housing plan are coming
lady
on
for
from
the
the
different-
Reinvestment Fund. Just to give you an update of the data that they've retrieved thus far. So DCD has been working with Human Services to put this together. And we're excited to share our progress thus far, if we could get them on the line. Aileen's on, so hopefully.
Is there something else on the agenda that we could go to?
Hi, we're on the phone, but we haven't, if you guys all have the materials in front of you, we could walk you through them together and just provide an overview of the housing needs assessment. If we can't get the deck to work on Skype, is that still helpful?
Michael, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine.
Could you not get on Skype?
I'm on Skype, but I don't have an address to put in. I just put the phone number in.
Thought Aileen gave him that code.
Yeah,
Did-
I thought so.
I think Aileen, that was in the email that I sent you earlier from Aileen.
I didn't have one with a link. I just had the call-in number.
Can you share the screen?
Jen, you're gonna have to
Do it, okay.
do it
I
manually.
wrote it up at the bottom just in case.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it's easier, let's just
Here.
do it manually.
Nope, that's not it. The presentation's not showing up.
Yeah.
What do you have? Where did you put it? She's trying to find a presentation. There it is.
We are presenting, not them.
Well, they were supposed to be able to present.
It says not, oh, there it goes. Okay, now, make it bigger.
that.
And then you have to stand here and you're gonna have to manually.
It's okay.
Okay, Michael,
Got
we've got the first page up on the screen, so you can proceed.
Okay, so Rebecca and I can narrate our way through the slides if you can advance them for the folks that are in the room. Does that sound good?
No problem.
I can also send a Zoom link if you have it on your.
Yep, if you send a Zoom link, I can hit it right now.
No, this is Rebecca. I could send it to them.
Oh,
Would that be beneficial, or should we just do it on the phone?
Just do it on the phone. That's gonna
Okay.
work the best.
okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for giving a chance to share this with you today. My name is Mike Norton. I'm the Chief Policy Analyst at Reinvestment Fund, and Rebecca Rothenberg is here with me from Atria Planning. And for the past 6 months or so, we've been working with the county to develop a housing needs assessment for the county. That's going to inform the creation of a strategic action plan for how to develop affordable housing for the county in the near term and in the longer term as unanticipated housing needs change over time. I'm going to let Rebecca walk us through most of the the presentation here today, because most of this work is the work that she's been doing on the front end of the housing needs assessment, and give you a sense of where we're headed. And there will be some time for questions towards the end. So Rebecca, you want to take it away?
Sure. And I will go quickly, understanding that there's a time sensitivity, but if we want to stop on anything, please let me know. So we can sum it up with the third slide, which is housing challenges. This is oh, I'm sorry. I think I don't have the right slide deck. Sorry. Mike, do you mind sending me your version?
Yeah.
I know.
Are you still there?
But I know what's in the slide, so.
Oh, because you don't have the file open. You gotta go. I'll send it to you about a minute.
It's amazing. It'll get from Ohio to San Diego, and just like that. And I'll start with the summary topics, right? So you guys can see on the second slide the summary of the Northampton County housing issues, right? So these 6 bullet points that you see here sort of represent the broad trends that we're seeing in the initial analyses that we've done of the housing market in Northampton County, right? We're seeing home prices increase very rapidly, particularly in walkable parts of the county. There's a real severe shortage of rental housing, particularly for the low-wage workforce, so folks that are working in warehouses or at the casino. There are an increasing number of low-income seniors that are experiencing housing challenges. The age of the homes and the amount of deferred maintenance in the housing stock in Northampton County, along with the size of some of the homes, make sort of maintenance a big challenge for a lot of longtime owners, and also sort of just keeping up with the housing quality for some of these older homes is a challenge. There's disproportionately low home ownership rates for Black and Latino families, even when we take into account family incomes. And then there are housing needs in rural areas, particularly rental housing and mobile home repairs, and challenges with rural homelessness throughout the county once you get outside of Easton and Bethlehem. It's a phenomenon that is increasingly important in the county. Rebecca, are you set up?
Yep, I am. Thank you.
All right. So why don't we?
So that's those are the high points in a nutshell. And so we have the supporting slides that go through some of the details. Some of it you may have heard before, others may be new to you. So just starting out, we have a substantial share of owners and renters who are considered housing challenge, which is HUD terminology, meaning they pay too much for housing, meaning they can't afford other necessary costs like food and transportation, or they live in overcrowded conditions, or they live in substandard conditions. The bulk of it is paying too much. And what you'll see here, which is not unusual, but it's difficult to address with programming, is the need at the less than 50% of area median income. So those are the hardest households to meet their housing needs because of the cost of development and the available programs. And then the next slide, we can show where that is located. Of course, the darker colors are the greatest needs, and we see the clusters within the urban areas, but then there are some bit more rural areas as well with significant renter needs. And then with home ownership, again, we're seeing it within the urban areas, Bethlehem and Easton, but also a greater share in the northeastern, more rural areas. And then when we look at it by race and ethnicity, interestingly, ownership, there's a greater discrepancy or disparity with Black and Hispanic or Latino homeowners. So Black and Latino homeowners have more challenges than white or Asian households. However, it's relatively the same amongst renters, except for Asian renters. The vast majority of Asian renters, even though the number is small, experience housing challenges. And then the next slide illustrates where that is. And in speaking with county staff, understanding that there is a casino that is a major employer, and with a lot of Asian workers who come in who are lower wage renters. And then the next slide, we show the gap in home ownership by race and ethnicity. And again, Asian and white, non-Hispanic homeowners, over 80%, and yet it drops substantially for Black and Hispanic homeowners. That's 43% for Hispanic and 54% for Black. The next slide looks at seniors who face housing cost burdens, so paying more than 30% of their income on housing. What is interesting to see here is that there are far more homeowners who are cost burdened at below the 50% AMI than in the state. So we're looking at some serious challenges amongst very low income homeowner seniors. The next slide illustrates homes that are built before 1950. We have an understanding that a lot of the challenges that low-income homeowners experience is the maintenance and repair of older homes. And so showing where that is clustered. It is mostly in the urban areas, but you do see some in rural areas as well. And additionally, and this affects seniors more than non-seniors, the concentration of mobile homes and aging mobile homes that are very difficult to repair with existing subsidized programs, and oftentimes don't meet HUD standards. And this shows where they're clustered in the rural areas. And then looking at where we have a concentration of multifamily homes. And this can be useful for when we compare it to job clusters, current or projected job clusters. And what is interesting about Northampton in comparison to other areas, well, Pennsylvania, we know that there's a large number of homes that are quite large from the manufacturing heyday, and that they're not necessarily in demand. And so they end up deteriorating or becoming blighted, and it's a challenge for what to do with them. So we wanted to take a look at where they're located, and this is the difficulty, but it also poses some opportunities, which we'll talk about in the strategy session. One interesting finding that we included here was a pretty low utilization rate for your vouchers, your housing choice vouchers. So the public housing authorities administer vouchers for low-income, HUD-assisted households to go find apartments on the open market. And in most public housing realms, 95% are used. Certainly above 90% would be a standard, but we're finding pretty low utilization rate in Bethlehem and in the county. And we looked at the performance of the housing authorities, and they're not low performing. So it indicates a real shortage of landlords who are willing to participate and/or availability of affordable housing, so that if you have a voucher, you just can't find an apartment that can accept them or is available. We also looked at what the economic base is and what types of workers are fueling that economic strength and the types of housing that would be affordable to them. And this is nothing new, but we included an analysis of occupational wages at the lower end and at the higher end to see what types of housing would be affordable for renters and owners. And so we see a lot of workers in your warehousing, in manufacturing, in education, and in food services. And we also compared it to some of the market rents in the area. This was based on a recent survey. We also included, as a separate analysis, the Zillow survey, which is mostly your larger multifamily. This survey includes your open market, which may or may not be subsidized housing, and your mom and pops. And then we looked at what workers can pay in rent, and looking at the average rent using Easton as an example, and what 30% of your income for certain types of workers is. And you can see a significant gap for a lot of your key occupations in the area. And this is at the 25th percentile. So assuming a worker starting out in their field, and then we jump to the 75th percentile for the same types of jobs to see what the affordability gaps are. And here you see that some workers, particularly social workers and some of the manufacturing, can advance for home purchase, but the majority can't. And then I will hand it over to you, Mike, to go through some of the MVA findings.
Thanks, Rebecca. So I just want to provide a quick reminder to folks that in 2016, we did a market value analysis for Northampton County, which you see on this slide here, that basically created a typology of the relative strength of the housing markets across the entire county, using measures of housing investment and value, measures of housing distress, and then measures of just housing types. And then we combined all of those different metrics into this typology that you see here, where the strongest markets are purple and blue, and the most distressed markets are orangish and red that you see on the maps here, just as a way to reorient you to where we see the strongest markets throughout the county, and where you see the pockets of distress in places like Easton and Bethlehem. And then if you go to the next slide, there's some little gaps in Penn Argyle and Bangor and Wind Gap, where you see some distress in some of these small towns around the Slate Belt. I also wanted to look at the MVA in terms of how we're seeing changes in median sales prices. If you go to the next slide, this presents the overall change in the median sales price from 2016-17 to 2019-20. So just over a 4-year period, roughly. In the darkest brown areas, we're seeing increases of more than 50% in the median sales prices of homes in around Nazareth and parts of Easton and parts of Bethlehem, just west of Stockertown. Right? These places are appreciating very rapidly, even places that are like 10 to 20% over the past 4 years. There's a tremendous amount of appreciation. And so we're seeing that really almost all over the county. They're getting a fair amount of appreciation. And if you go to the next slide, where you just have the table we look at the different market types. Remember the A cluster, the A, B's, and C's are the strongest markets, and then the F, G, and H markets are some of the most distressed. But if you look at the change in the median sales price across these different groups, you see the greatest increases at the bottom end of the market, right? So even at the most distressed markets in H, your median sales price was still $73,000 in 2016-17. And just to contextualize that for the group, nationally and in other markets all over the country, this is a really high floor for the bottom of the market in Northampton County. So while it is sort of the bottom end of the market, there's a lot, it's appreciating at about 50% over the last few years. And that's because it also had a really strong starting point, right? So even the most distressed parts of the county comparatively are not as bad off as we've seen in other places. But you see rapid appreciation in those E, F, G, and H markets. And those prices in 2019-20 at $157,000, $143,000, $118,000, $115,000 are still pretty affordable, right? But they're obviously moving very quickly up the ladder. And one of the things that we wanted to understand, and we're going to dig into a little bit more, is to understand how much of that increase is due to investment, so people making improvements to their properties, and how much of it is just speculative buying or other things like that that are fueling demand in the market that's sort of increasing these prices. And so if you go to the next slide, this looks at the changes in home prices within some of the individual towns, right? Cities and towns in Northampton County, to look at the price appreciation that we're seeing in the past year, right? So this is only in the past year, so these data are from Zillow, not from the actual sales transactions that were presented in the last slide. But again, you see rapid increase, price increases in every single one of these places, right? From a low of 10%, right? 9.9% in Middletown, to 20%, 19% in Bangor and Penn Argyl. These are really fast, rapidly increasing housing markets. So that's the end of our substantive slides that we have for today. So the next steps that we have in the project itself is to finalize our data collection through a series of focus groups and interviews with key stakeholders across the county. Then we will be taking all of that information that we collect in those interviews and focus groups and putting them into a final report for the housing needs assessment and using that as the basis for developing a strategic action plan to create the affordable housing that the county is going to need in the near and longer term sort of going forward. So we have a few minutes left for questions, so we want to open it up to the group, and please feel free to ask about anything that we've presented here, and we can sort of hopefully field your questions.
Is there any questions?
Mr. Lott?
Yes, Mr.
Is there a time frame on, did you guys cover the time frame, like when you come back to us, when it launches, and did you cover that?
Well, right here, so we're doing our focus groups right now in July. August, September, we'll be looking to finalize the housing needs assessment report, and then we'll be developing the action plan to implement the key strategies in September and October.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Kusick.
Yeah, I guess this question is for the consultants. The housing market over the last 6-9 months has rapidly changed. I guess my question is, in your data collection process, has that been taken into account?
Well, in the degree to which we're able to get current data, we take those data, we can look at the transactions as they are, right? Understanding qualitatively how people's buying preferences are changing is something that, doesn't show up in individual sales transactions, but that you can intuit in the patterns that you see. And in some ways, right, over the past 12 months, 15 months or something, right, a lot of the housing stock in Northampton that maybe before would have been not as appealing suddenly becomes more appealing if you can take a bigger home and you can make it into a place that has 2 work-from-home offices and a couple of extra bedrooms for people to live in. So I think in the course of us developing the strategies and recommendations around how to meet the affordable housing needs of the county, those kinds of qualitative considerations are going to be front and center in our thinking, but they don't show up in the quantitative data other than sort of underlying it, right? Because we don't know anything about the people that are buying and selling the homes that we see, the transactions, right? We just see the transactions.
Yeah, I mean, I
The changing.
go ahead.
Apologies. So we are seeing the change in prices. So it's reflecting the first quarter of 2021 in comparison to the first quarter of 2020. We may be able to look at updates, but so they're pretty current. What would be also helpful that we don't have is the demographic changes of who's coming in, the change in income, education, and the migration patterns, which you wouldn't see for another year or two.
Yeah, I've just noticed a significant increase in some of the list prices compared just to what houses were sold, a year or two ago. So I think you're trying to shoot at a moving target here, and I'm interested to see what your results show.
Yeah, it's what we've seen so far. It's pretty shocking, and it's not something unique to the county.
Thank you.
Based on Mr. Cusick's question, the rental properties are also going up in tangent to the housing prices. Is that correct?
Yes, but what I'm seeing in the survey and what Zillow is reporting is that the increase is not nearly as high as the home ownership or the home sales. It's a lot more.
I think there's a lag time there, maybe, or.
I don't think so. I mean, potentially, but this is based on actual surveys of listings, and then Zillow uses their multifamily database, so they're looking at all of the large-scale multifamily. So I'm not saying it hasn't increased, but it's I'll go back to it, but I think it's less than 10%.
And just one more question to follow that up. The prices for the rentals, and this is affordable housing, so you are looking at the medium level of affordable housing or the low end of affordable housing, or what were those in your slide?
So
on the rentals.
Sure. So we're looking at what's available in the non-subsidized market. So things that are not receiving government subsidy, and they can price it at whatever they want in comparison to what incomes are. So that's sort of like the high level of whether or not your rental market is affordable. And then we also look at the supply of subsidized or deeply affordable housing compared to the number of households that need it. So your very low wage earners and persons with disabilities and low income senior renters. So the ideal price point of a rental would be something that your workforce could afford. So we go at it both ways. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm looking at this slide number, I don't have a number on it, but it's the rental market, the rental rates 2021, market rents. And So, for instance, the first line is Bangor, $650 for a one-bedroom, a two-bedroom, $900, and a three-bedroom, $1,350. Is that the lowest end, or is this a median end of affordable housing? I guess that's kind of the way I mean, is this low end? Is this the lowest end here in Bangor, or is it the middle market?
So I would put it at the roughly 40% or fair market rent. So it's slightly below average.
Okay, that's good. No, that answers my question. So they're all kind of in line with that then, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
So the Zillow, sure.
Thank you, Ms. Zirinsky.
So you have listed here that there's 2,968 units for these rentals, but you don't break the rentals down into which ones are one bedroom, two bedroom, three bedroom. Of like how many are available in that 2,968 of one bedroom apartments, of 2, 3, and then I would like to see the breakdown of where the deficit is in the occupancy type of housing and then the cost of that housing. Because I know that I've seen lots of luxury apartments going up, luxury everything. And so if we're looking for affordable housing, it would be really important to know the number of units of that 2,968 units that are affordable rather than the luxury. Does that make sense?
Yes, understood.
Okay. Right.
So that there are a lot more rental units than what we have here. I was just including that number as that was the sample size for gauging the pricing.
So that's just
but we will show, yes. So we will show a gap in supply based on household projections and income and tenure of households.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions on this presentation? Seeing none, is there any other business under economic development? Seeing none, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike and Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Bye-bye.
Can we get copies of that presentation?
Yes.
Did you give them
We'll
to
certainly,
us?
Linda has the slides.
Yeah, because